I'm breaking the flow of these weekly Chalke Talk videos in response to the government's announcement about their desire to ban conversion therapy, which is a controversial and I believe barbaric practice designed to, quote, correct someone's sexual orientation from homosexual to heterosexual. However, in truth, everything I want to say today is absolutely in line with what I've been talking about over the last few weeks around the meaning of the death of Jesus on the cross. Earlier this week, someone asked me, so if you don't believe that the purpose of the cross was to satisfy God's anger with us, what do you believe it was about? Well, I believe that the cross is about God's dogged love for each one of us, and the lengths to which Jesus was willing to go to demonstrate that love in action. And I believe deeply, that it's our understanding of this central issue, this central act, that shapes our pastoral responses to others. And there's probably no area in modern day life where parts of the church has got all of this more wrong than over the issue of conversion therapy. Yesterday, I read an article printed by the UK Christian Press which stated that all the reliable research shows that those who undergo conversion therapy treatments show no evidence that participation has caused mental health issues. Words fail me. I've spent the last decade, almost every single week of my life, listening to the stories of pain, anguish, and deep and lasting mental distress caused by such encounters. I've seen the scars, real ones, literal ones, arms covered in cuts, and I've sat with those recovering from suicide attempts, all the result of therapy, pastoral care, and prayer from churches who practice such techniques and believe such theology. Come to the church I lead in central London, which besides anything else acts as a sanctuary for LGBT people who've only ever known rejection and repression from other churches, and then rerun your research. So although there's much to be welcomed in the government's plan, the way I see it, we're still in danger of missing the heart of the issue. Most of the many churches that still refuse to grant equality to LGBT and T people don't run organised counselling or structured programmes that can be easily identified and then banned as conversion therapy. Instead, they typically engage in 5 practices which individually and collectively work to undermine the mental health and well-being of LGBT people in churches. The first practice is informal prayer. Most people who share their sexuality with a church leader or Christian youth worker don't find themselves inducted into formal conversion therapy sessions. Instead, they're most likely to be offered the chance to be prayed for, with the goal of releasing them from same-sex attraction. This practice, though, undermines an individual's identity and often causes deep psychological distress, and it's especially true for young people. The second practice is treating same-sex attraction as an illness or affliction. Now, many churches refuse to acknowledge that people can be anything other than heterosexual. So instead, they refer to gay people as suffering from, quotes again, same-sex attraction. This term, though, is used deliberately because homosexuality is regarded as an illness to be cured or an affliction to be suffered, rather than an integral part of some people's God-given humanity. To be told, as LGBT people often are, you struggle with same-sex attraction in the same way that other people struggle with lying or lust, sends a message that generates an unquantifiable amount of psychological damage. And the point is that it's also a category error. The Bible's clear. Lying, stealing, adultery, promiscuity are all wrong because they are all exploitative and abusive of other people. In fact, all the New Testament references to what we assume, sometimes because of poor English translations from the original Greek text, are about homosexuality, are actually about the common practice in Roman times, just like ours, of using and abusing another person for personal sexual gratification. And the biggest problem that our society and our churches face with this isn't amongst LGBT people, it's heterosexual people. The third principle is around barriers to participation. It's common for evangelical churches to remove LGBT people from leadership roles if they dare to find the courage to come out, and especially if they ever find it in themselves to confess to a relationship. Other churches will ban them from any upfront roles such as singing or playing in the band, leading or taking part in children's or youth work, or even taking communion. Each of these acts of exclusion undermines confidence and well-being and can cause psychological distress and harm that lasts a lifetime. Such levels of proactive discrimination should be made illegal now. The fourth bad principle is negative teaching. Many local churches teach extremely negative messages in sermons, through Sunday schools and youth groups, which create a sense that LGBT people and LGBT relationships are disgusting or even demonic. Such teaching also regularly threatens them with God's judgment and punishment in hell. In my view, these are all based around the catastrophic misreading, shallow reading of biblical texts. And principle 5 is enforced silence. When LGBT people find the courage to confess their sexuality or true gender identity to church leaders, the first thing they're often asked to do is to keep their revelation a secret. This sends the message to the person concerned that their identity is a dirty secret and that who they are is fundamentally sinful, unacceptable and unlovable. All this is why I believe the government's plan is a step in the right direction. But previous research by Oasis has established that churches and Christians are now the single biggest barrier to LGBT acceptance and equality in society. So any effective legislation has to tackle these church issues. Why am I so passionate about all of this? Because I'm a pastor. And I believe that when we treat LGBT people as pariahs and push them outside our communities and churches, when we blame them for who they are, or when we deny them our blessing on their commitment to lifelong faithful relationships, we make them doubt whether they are children of God made in His image. So what does it mean to live out the true meaning of the cross? Which I don't believe is, on that cross as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied, but rather, on that cross as Jesus died, the love of God was magnified. What does it mean for the way that we treat the LGBT community? What do you think? I'll see you next week.